You bring it in.
Okay. Luke, how are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you on. I think the stars have aligned and everything's aligned. I was just saying to you before, we went to Dave the Medium's first live show on the weekend and you spoke.
I did.
And I said to Sarah, I'm like, I think he just messaged us on Instagram. So we did a little stalk. We were like, nah, this is going to align.
And I have to say, Happy New Year. It's the astrological New Year.
See, I didn't even know that.
Yesterday. So the sun moves into Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So it begins a whole new astrological year.
So we've got our what we celebrate December 31st. We've got the Chinese New Year and then we have the astrological New Year.
This is so funny you say that. And maybe you can help me here. The other day when we heard you speak, I was thinking, why did he start at Aries?
Yeah.
That's why.
That's right. It's the first sign of the zodiacal wheel, which is the zodiac signs sort of begin and end all at the first degree of Aries.
Okay.
Yeah. So every March 20th, around about, the sun moves into Aries on the zodiac, and that begins the start of that cycle again.
Huh. Who made the zodiac calendar?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. So this is how I sort of make sense of it. The energetic universe unfolds in a certain way and it's cyclical and there's pattern base to it.
Okay.
So probably the wisdom keepers of the past for thousands of years observed reality unfolding, and then they witness these patterns. And the main one is the seasons, right? You have those seasons throughout the year, the four main seasons. And then they would have worked out that based on the seasons, there is, things happening at certain times of the year don't happen at other times of the year. So then they correlated this with life experience, and then they worked out that at certain times when the planets, stars, sun, moon are in certain positions, this lines up to the expression of this reality that we see before us. So then if you want to record something forever and have it always there, never to be lost, you got to find some material you can put that in, because you can't put it in paper, because it doesn't. I think about 400 or 500 years wood and paper lasts. Stone will even erode and diminish, you know. So even stone carvings, you think some of the Aboriginal art and stuff like that is 50, 60, 70,000 years old. Well, what's going to last millions, if not billions of years? Like, how long have we been here? How long has there been life here? How long has humanity been here? Where do you put that information? Where do you store it, catalogue it? Stars. Because the same stars we look at are the same stars they looked at. Now, they're always moving in motion and they're always in different sort of patterns, but it's the same stars. It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So they superimpose this knowledge into the stars. And we sort of think, the stars are doing this. Maybe the stars just correlate to the way reality unfolds, and our forebearers and wisdom keepers, sages and prophets of the past just put that information there and sort of symbolically imprinted it there for us so that we would know, hey, that's where to go, how to go. This is life unfolding.
People were so fucking smart compared to us.
Seriously.
Literally.
I know.
It just blows my mind. Okay, so it's written in the stars, literally.
Yeah.
Which is what people say, yeah.
Then how is this modern birth chart, like say a Cancerian, a Gemini, is that a modern version of astrology?
Yes, so the birth chart is just taking a snapshot of the stars at the precise moment of birth. And it's the moment when the baby takes its first breath. So it's not the due date. It's not like, from conception. It's the moment that the birth happens, whether it's, natural or cesarean, doesn't really matter. There's a moment where there's a breath of life that happens. And at that moment, then we take a snapshot of the sky above. And there's a sort of imprint that's happening up there, which correlates to how energy's unfolding at that precise moment. And then us being an expression of energy now physical in a body, we sort of partake of that imprint, if you like. So
is that how you know what's going to happen when you were talking about the Chinese zodiac or something the other day? Energetically, you know what's going to come up for the year?
Yes. Yeah, we sort of look to see what's happening in the sky above us, where the alignments are, where the planetary alignments are, what signs they're in, and their cycles as well, because everything has a cycle. So are we at the middle, beginning and end of cycles? What are those cycles and what do they relate to? And then because of the symbolism embedded in that knowledge, we can then symbolically understand the types of experiences we're going to experience here.
This is where I have a bit of beef with astrology,
Sure.
right? I think it was maybe January 20th this year.
Yes.
For all,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you posted about this on TikTok.
Pluto in Aquarius.
yes.
Yeah.
So for all, what do they call it? Can't remember the specific words of signs, but it's Libra, Cancerians,
Yes,
Aries.
yes.
And they're like, you know what? It's your time now. You've been in this shift for 15 years. And I'm like, well, what the fuck's supposed to happen? Nothing's happened to us yet.
And we're Cancerian, so you took a deep dive into it a little bit.
100%. I was like, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
I'm a Cancerian.
For sure.
But nothing happens.
Of course, absolutely. Yep. And there's very good reason for that. So first thing, with the social media landscape at the moment, it's a bit of an echo chamber for certain things, and especially when it comes to astrology or anything woo, tends to get really amplified.
Yeah.
So something that's occurring naturally and it's something not necessarily pointing to anything specific can all of a sudden be blown out of proportion into like, it's going to mean this and it's going to mean that. And if we sort of tie this back to your the horoscopes within magazines and newspapers. You know, sometimes you read them and they're really on point, and other times you're like, that's not so much. It's because what they're looking at is one tiny little aspect of you and your makeup, which is where the sun was when you were born. And they're looking at only that little tiny point, which would be maybe 1/10, if that, of your energetic sort of makeup. And they're saying, based on that, this is the meaning for you. And it's like, that doesn't take into our individuality into consideration. So when people on social media sort of give this generalization to certain alignments with particular archetypes or signs, they're missing the nuance of individuality, and everyone's going to experience it differently depending on where that alignment is going to occur within your own birth chart. Because the birth chart is like your set of antennas or receivers that are sort of invisible cosmic receivers and antennas. When things are happening, if they align to one of your antennas, then it picks up in your life experience and you go through something significant. If it is happening up here, but your antennas aren't geared to receive that, then it's not going to be impactful for you. So therefore, you know, not all Cancerians are the same, if that makes sense. Then we have to look at what they were talking about was Pluto's ingress into Aquarius. Pluto's transits, like they depict periods of our life that span over 3 years of life. They generally don't specify events happening at a certain point. They sort of relate to transitional changes that we go through, but not something. It's almost like you go through a Pluto moment, and how you know you went through it is because when you look back, you go, oh, those 3 years. That was huge. This happened, and then that happened. All these things happened, and I changed as a result afterwards.
Yeah, right.
So Pluto into Aquarius is this big shift energetically into a new frequency. We're going to look back in time and go, oh, yeah, of course, those changes happen. At the time, you're probably not going to, sort of
so interesting.
feel it. Yeah.
Do you get a better understanding of that now that Luke's explained it?
Especially when it comes to Pluto.
Yeah.
Well, Pluto's a planet of transformation, and it's often what occurs is a death and a rebirth, the death of the old self, old way of being, old life, old reality, old relationship, old career, whatever that might be, so that a rebirth can take place.
And that happens every 3 years?
No, so Pluto's impact on a natal chart can last 3 years. So impact in someone's life can be like spanning over a 3-year period of time. Whereas when Pluto moved into Aquarius, it's going to be in the sign Aquarius for 20 years. So therefore, whilst it's in Aquarius, it's going to impact everyone's Aquarian part of their chart at specific times, depending on what Aquarian is in their chart.
Yeah.
So an example of this, to sort of help you understand more personally for Cancerians, there are 12 different subtypes of Cancerian. So
12?
Yeah, each sign has 12 subtones to it.
I didn't know that.
Never knew that.
Yeah, so this is the thing about birth chart analysis and having a professional look at your chart rather than sort of just looking at someone's social media going, oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. It's like, okay, maybe not,
So what are the 12?
Subtones?
Yeah.
Yeah, so depending on the time of your birth, depends on where the sun was in the sky. So imagine someone born at 6 a.m., even if they're born on the date that's Cancerian, is going to be different to someone born at 6 p.m. Why? Because the expression of life at 6 a.m. is a lot different than the expression of life at 6 p.m. Same with someone born at midday, right? Their sun's going to be in the top of their chart. That's the point of the day when the sun reaches its highest point in the sky. It's hot. things are culminating. It's the middle of the day. This is what I'm doing. This is who I am, right? You're right in the middle of work, all that sort of stuff. So the expression of the Cancer quality at that time of birth is going to be different to someone born at midnight.
Wow.
They're still going to be Cancer, but they're a midnight Cancerian. So the 12 different subtones to each of the signs is like someone born, a Cancerian born at 12 in the day might be either like a Cancer or a Cancer Leo. Someone born just as the sun's rising would be a Cancer Pisces. Someone born at sunset would be a Cancer Libran, right? So they're Cancerian, but they're going to have Libran qualities because that's the part of the time of the day that relates specifically to the Libran energy.
And how important, like as an individual, how important is it to know what Cancer you are, or like, because we're both Cancer.
Yeah.
How important is it to know?
Is this just in your sun sign that you can
Just in the sun sign.
Wow.
And at every planet's the same.
So like
I did
you've
not
got
know
your sun,
that.
your moon, your rising.
Yes, they're the main three.
Yes.
So that in your sun you've got all these
Another-
other added layers.
Absolutely.
Never knew that.
Well, that's how come you can meet Cancerians and they're different. They're
Well,
the
we're
tip-
born like a day apart.
Right, okay.
Two Cancerians. I
Yeah.
think we
So
were
are.
both born at night time.
My mum has lost. I can't do any of this shit because my mum has lost and cannot remember the time I was born.
You can do a birth chart rectification of time. So
Can you?
Yeah, we can use astrological timing techniques to look back into your life at significant events and moments
Huh.
and qualify them against time of birth and then work out within pretty close proximity what time you're born.
Because I've also been told I can call the Women's
can.
Hospital to find out, but I
Yep.
just haven't done it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tully, I've got a... Surely you want to know what you're about to have.
What do you mean?
This little one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You basically know her time of birth.
Oh, yeah. I could tell you now. So she's going to be a 9 a.m. Aries.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
So, and that time of the year too, so we're coming out of summer and into sort of autumn
yeah.
time. Yeah, because that matters because 9 a.m. in summer is different to 9 a.m. in winter.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Because you think about it,
Light
9 a.m.
sun.
summer, there's more light.
Yeah, true.
9 a.m. in winter, it's only just light.
True.
So where that sun will be in the birth chart will be slightly different. But I would say for you that if that's the case,
Yeah.
then Aries is her sun sign.
Uh-huh.
And she'll have either the sun in the 12th house or the 11th house of the zodiac.
Okay.
And the 12th house gives it the subtone to Aries Pisces.
Yep.
And the 11th house gives the subtone to Aries Aquarius.
Okay.
So, they're an Aquarian type of Aries. They're a Piscean type of Aries. So
know
what are the houses of the zodiac?
Yeah.
They relate specifically to areas of life experience.
Okay.
So, and they are, so the houses are determined by the time of birth. The date of birth determines the sun's position. Yeah, so everyone born on the 15th of April will have their sun in Aries at a certain degree. Everyone on that day in the whole entire world will have it pretty much the same.
Is your destiny written out for you, do you think, then, if it's in the stars and everything's energy?
Well, look, yes and no. There's
Yeah.
a combination of fate and free will. Absolutely.
Okay.
The less aware someone is, I find the less self-aware someone is, the more fatalistic their life can be. And you can really look at their chart as a way to sort of see their life unfolding. But as we become more self-aware and we then exercise free will and choice, a lot of people would like to think they are, but mostly they're operating from their programming and their unconscious, subconscious programming. But as you sort of evolve and you start to understand there is a negative pattern that I keep, expressing, which keeps leading me into these difficult situations, then I can sort of exercise free will to change that pattern and work on the more positive side of it. And now I'm sort of in that place of like, I'm co-creating my reality.
Yeah.
So less fatalistic.
Yep.
Yeah.
If someone's listening to this, say they're on their walk and they're like, whatever star sign they are, what are some day-to-day things that, should their lives be led by their star signs in a way?
Day to day, no.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't want to be in the shopping aisle, with your chart looking, should I buy the chocolate or not
Yeah.
buy the chocolate? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's pointless. But for, the key areas of your life when it comes to, your career and vocation, definitely you want to be lining to the qualities that are represented in your chart that specifically relate to that aspect of you.
So, like,
And
life
when you
changes
find
and
people
stuff.
that have done that, they've got fulfillment in their career.
Wow.
And when you find people struggling against it, it's because some other desire or need is overridden their intrinsic qualities in that area, and they've done something because they thought they had to. That was me before I had my own personal sort of journey of awakening. I was a pest controller for 20 years, and I just became someone who I thought I had to be to get the things you're supposed to get in order to feel some level of happiness and fulfillment. Tick the boxes. And I was successful at that, but I was not fulfilled. I wasn't really happy with myself and my life, and I thought, this isn't who I want to be. And for me, when I wasn't into astrology at that time, I sort of came across it later in life. But when I worked out my own chart and I realized why I didn't feel like I was myself in my career, for me, being myself in the work that I do is part of the way in which I find myself. So I have to be aligned to something that's connected here. If I'm doing something that's not connected there, it really destroys my self-image, my self-confidence.
You're out of whack.
Totally. And I get down and really critical of myself and depressed easily and avoidant and distracted. And I didn't realize that until I sort of discovered these qualities. And like I always stress with people, like I have a birth chart, but I am not my birth chart. A birth chart is a tool. It's a tool to help me understand who I am. And I already was a certain way before I come here. Just the picture of the stars at the time helps me understand that journey. And here I am on that journey. And it's like the chart just helps me go, oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And then what I've done, and I haven't done it necessarily overtly and consciously, I've just heard the calling and moved into the direction that my soul was urging me to move. And now I'm an astrologer, a past life regression therapist, a reiki healer. I help people transition from old self to new self. And I have these tools to help me do it. And when you look at my chart in that context, it's like, oh, it's so aligned.
Wow.
Like it just,
Yeah. Going back to when you said you had an awakening and you weren't always like this, what was that awakening?
So I'd led myself in a life where I was externally looking in, was like, oh, it's all going well. And you've got all the things you're supposed to have to make yourself happy. And internally looking out, I was miserable. And I didn't really know at the time how to deal with being unhappy, so I'd mask it with alcohol. And so I would drink after work and felt entitled because I worked hard. I'd have a few beers, maybe too many. And then on the weekend I'd binge drink and, golf and footy and all that sort of stuff. And, I did a few things when it was in that state of mind that when I was drunk as well, which once I realised in the aftermath, I wasn't really feeling good about myself. I had a lot of guilt and shame, a lot of regret, and wasn't being a very good father at the time either. And something happened towards the end of 2014, and I just, I thought to myself, I don't know what's going on, but obviously something's wrong, and alcohol isn't helping. So I decided in 2015 that I'd have a year off alcohol. And in that year, I got clear on lots of things. And I started going down conspiracy rabbit holes back when there was less censorship on the internet, and came across spirituality and astrology and astrotheology, so tying astrology and religion together. And I'm a Virgo by nature, so I like to know, why? Why is that?
You're curious.
I'm curious for information that's practical and useful. And when I came across all this stuff, I was like, oh, I started to get things. I started to get why I was the way I was, why the world the way it was. And it just sort of, spoke to me, and I just pulled that thread and kept going. And I was mentored at the time from a friend who didn't know he was a mentor, and he kept me on my path and helped me. And I had some energetic clearings and some healings, and I had one moment that I could sort of pinpoint as my real aha, sort of clouds part, the sun coming down, and moment. And it was just this deep revelation within me of a knowing of like, oh, I get it. I get me, I get life, I get my purpose, I get why I'm here, I just get it. And I call that my awakening, So then it's like the challenging part of that is when I looked around into the life that I'd built for myself up into that moment from my unawareness or, from my less awareness, I didn't really want much of the stuff that I had, especially the work that I was doing. That was the main thing. And then later, it was a breakdown of a relationship and becoming a single father and, all the types of integration that I had to do once I had this new awareness, which was frightening and treacherous. And, I did that mostly on my own. I just kept peeling the layers of the not self back, and keep pulling everything away. And when I came out the other side of that, with a lot of tools at my disposal and a lot of people that supported me, like without even knowing they were supporting me. I was like, yes, that's a really difficult process. It's a common process. And that's what I thought, that's what I want to do for people. Virgos love to be of use and service, and I want to help. And that's the best way I can help because I've walked that path. So that's what I do now.
Someone will come to you and you present them with a chart, their chart, and help guide them in a direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So my clients will come to me with some challenge or difficulty in their life, usually. If everything, like if you're kicking goals and everything's going amazing,
You're never
going
going
to
to seek anything like that.
you're like, well, I don't really know, I don't need to check in,
Yeah.
you know? And at times in our life, we can be like that and things are just flowing naturally and we're like, we're feeling good.
Yeah.
You're less likely to sit in front of a tarot reader then, are you?
Yeah.
Right? But if you're got some challenges going on, you're not sure how to make sense of them and you're looking for answers and you don't know who to turn to and everywhere you go, everyone's got their own projection. I say, like, tune into the chart. It's not me, it's your chart. I just have the ability to be able to bring the chart into awareness for you to go, oh, okay. So I have the gift of looking at someone's chart and seeing what they're stuck on and why they're stuck on that. You know, and often it's not the challenge in their life, it's some pattern of behavior that they are, you know, playing out, which is co-creating this particular challenge for them. So making people aware of that, giving them the tools to empower them to be able to make the change, that's then they go away and they implement and integrate that and then change their complete life.
Crazy.
So,
Energetically, what's written in the stars for 2024?
2024 is an interesting, I think it's about to start. Like we've had 3 months to this year already, but it's like hangover from 2023, if you call it that.
And we're starting the new astrological year.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Wait,
we
so
also,
does the year start in January or does it start in April?
the calendar year starts in January, the astrological year starts in
Because you just said the
March.
last 3 months. Then I was like, oh, but I thought it started in March.
So, you know, Aries season always gives us these new beginnings,
Okay.
right? It's something new is starting to be birthed now. And whether that's conscious or not, it's like there's a new phase or cycle beginning. And I felt that even just recently in my own life and just looking at like things that are coming to an end and ways of being and behaving and certain little characteristics that I'm sort of, you know, letting go gently and stepping into a different way to be. But collectively, we have eclipse season. Right, so every year you have at least 4 eclipses.
I know we're in eclipse season, just about to go bang in.
Yes.
Does it happen the same time every year?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's always the part of the sky that relates to eclipses is what's known as the nodal axis. So I'm not going to go into the details too much of that because it would be like sort of thing. But they move through the zodiac backwards at a rate of 18 years through the zodiac. So they're always moving in a backwards motion through the zodiac. They spend about 18 months in each zodiac sign.
Oh, wow.
So every time there is a new or full moon in relation, like into alignment with these parts of the chart, we have an eclipse. So we'll have 2 at some part of the year, and then 6 months later we'll have another 2, and then 6 months later we'll have another 2, and then 6 months later. Sometimes we can get 5, sometimes we can get up to 7 eclipses in a year, calendar year. But this year I think we've got 5. We start on Monday. There's a lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, and the eclipses, they're like supercharged new moons and full moons, basically. So, and there's a karmic quality to it, and karma in the sense of like, this is the best way to describe it. Let's say you're a base jumper, right? And you're going to stand on the edge of a cliff. And you've seen those wingsuit people that just glide along the mountain, and it's like amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we forget all of the training and preparation that went in to get to that moment before they jump off the edge, you know? So eclipses are like we're going through our life and we're doing the work to get to the top of the mountain, climbing, prepared equipment. And we find ourselves at this point of transition where that's finished now, and now we're doing this part of it. So eclipses signify these cyclical changes that we go through. And sometimes the change is happening is because we're jettisoning something, we're letting go of it, we're no longer being that, having that, like something's coming to its rapid end. And other times it's because something brand new has begun. So you could sort of look at the transition point is signified by an eclipse. So there is this karmic sense of like, well, all of my energy or effort got me here, and now there is a release or an event or an experience that I go through, and now I'm down the hill and it's going in a different direction, if that makes sense. So the last eclipse cycle happened in October last year, right around the ignition of the Gaza conflict. You know, so you could sort of think of life before then and post then, how things shift, people's perception shifts, what their focus on is shifting, the way they're interacting is shifting. There's a bit more polarization going on at the moment because of that. So, you know, this next eclipse we're having on Monday is a lunar eclipse. It's like the culminating point for that period of time. And then 2 weeks after that's a solar eclipse, and that's a new moon. So new moon's always new beginnings. Full moon's always like releasing things, letting go of things. So that's like, again, it's a supercharged new beginning. So the fact that that's coming just as we move into Aries season, the start of the zodiac, and then we get eclipse straight away, it's sort of going to really amplify this.
Rebirth.
Like, we're going now, there's change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You spoke earlier about social media, and I would say how it influences the astrology world at the moment.
Yes.
A big thing that always comes up, and when I think of astrology and when I think of social media, is Mercury in retrograde.
Yeah.
That's huge on social media, and I never knew what it was until I kept hearing it about it, and now I feel like people are just using it as an excuse of having a bad day or having bad luck. Can you explain to us exactly what Mercury in retrograde is?
100%. Firstly, Mercury's not doing anything.
Okay.
Yeah. The best way to think of astrology is not causation, but correlation.
Okay.
So it's not like it's doing it, damn you, Mercury,
Yeah.
it's Mercury's fault. It's like a cosmic clock telling us the cyclical nature of the universe, right? So it's signifying time. Now, from our perspective, what happens during a Mercury retrograde is the little star, the light, the planet that we call Mercury, appears to stop in the sky and traverse backwards through a particular part of the sky, hence retrograding.
Okay.
Now, symbolically, what does Mercury represent? So every planet has a set of significations. So the moon, the lunar energy represents mother, womb, the cycles of life, birth, life, and death, and that type of thing. It represents emotions because it's association to the tides and how, the moons and the tides are sort of correlated.
Yeah.
So the ebbing and flowing of the waters of the earth sort of impact our waters within us, and we have emotional experiences. The word mood is a play on words from moon, right? So every sort of planetary energy, and again, we can thank our wisdom keepers of the past that give us this knowledge, symbolically relates to certain aspects of life experience. Mercury relates to the mind and how we think and our thought processes.
Okay.
Also known as the planet of transportation, navigation, and communication. So he governs those types of things. What we're doing now is a very mercurial thing. We're engaging together in conversation, and we're broadcasting that socially. This is all mercurial in nature. So when the planet Mercury retrogrades, we go into these periods where its significations are also retrograding. So people's mind can be not necessarily focused on the here and the now or the plan anymore. It's almost like they get this, oh, what was I doing moment? Like everything's going along, and then you ever had that time where you're driving a car and you're thinking about all these things and you know where you're going, but all of a sudden you end up where you're going and you don't know how you got there.
Yeah. Like, how
You're
did
just
I
like,
get here?
how did I get there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, your mind was in retrograde.
Oh.
Like literally your mind through that period of time. So what took over was the subconscious.
Yes.
Because you know how to do that. It just took over the driving, and you're like, oh my God. Or you do it like where you miss the turn. And you're like, oh God, I missed the turn. Yeah, because I wasn't focused. So Mercury retrogrades are a period where the collective mind, if you want to think of it like that, has a tendency to retrograde. So then all the things that we do with our thinking and our mind and in communicating, transportation, navigation, they also go a little bit like we're not on the job anymore. So therefore, you're more likely to experience delays, issues, breakdowns, communication challenges and difficulties, because that's collectively what's happening.
I always think of Mercury retrograde. Someone said to me once, do not sign a contract in Mercury retrograde. I'm like, but why? I need to sign it.
I'll give you an example of that if you like.
Okay, yeah, please.
So have you ever gone to the shops and gone, oh my God, I love that outfit?
All the time.
Bought it, and then literally a month later you're looking at it going, why did I buy that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've
It's
still got
just-
a dress that I haven't worn 8 months. Bought it 8 months ago.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
time.
That's a Mercury retrograde experience because you've thought about it, you may impulsively act upon it, and then in time you've reflected and went, actually, I don't like it.
Didn't need that.
Didn't need it, or it's the wrong size, or I don't even like it. It doesn't fit properly, whatever. So imagine then during a Mercury retrograde, you've gone, oh my God, I've got to have that. And you've committed contractually to something that's a commitment. Bought a house, married someone, but made some type of long-term commitment in the impulse of the moment. Well, chances are, if you've done that during a retrograde period, Mercury's reversing. So the mind is not in its normal sort of cognitive process. It's a little bit like impulsive or reactive. So then Mercury goes direct, and now the energy shifts the other way, and you then have that change of mind. So if you've committed to something during a Mercury retrograde that's pretty important, and you then change your mind, but you've signed the line, oh shit, I signed for that.
No turning back.
I mean, now I'm committed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That makes sense.
Mentally noted myself, do not go on dates during
true.
Mercury retrograde.
I've done really well buying and selling cars during Mercury retrograde.
What do you mean?
Why?
Well, negotiating a deal and getting like a ridiculous deal
and then
during a retrograde, and then
because the impulse of the person.
well, yeah, they're just more likely to, like, it goes in your favor.
We know a girl who buys crypto and sells crypto during the same stage.
Yeah.
Who? Nah.
No, Lainey.
Oh,
yeah.
she's
The moon and Mercury are really associated a lot to the crypto energy.
What are, sorry?
Why
The
is
moon
that?
and moon, because it's the cycles, and the moon also relates to the collective common person, right? So common people are us, we're common people.
Yeah.
They're ruled and governed by the moon. So they're impulses, right? So you watch where the chart's up and down, and you do the opposite.
So if you want to trade crypto or buy crypto, follow.
Well, not me. I'm not a specialist in that area. I don't niche in that.
Yeah.
But I do. A lady I know is Astrogan. You can look her up, Gann.
Makes sense, though.
She does a lot of that.
Yeah.
Looking at those things. But like everything in our known reality can be correlated to some symbolism that you can then find through the stars, literally.
Let's talk about a huge symbolism.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's moving, or if it's something that's moving for the first time in 100 or 250 years. The shift into feminine energy, what's happening with that?
I mean, that's a big one. Is there an astrological component to this? There is definitely a shifting of the ages.
Yeah. What's that correlated to? Why is that happening?
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything that I could specifically point to in the astrology. I'd have to do some research on that and sit with that idea. But the way I see it is that the feminine quality is the creative quality.
Yep.
So we've been living within a system that has, sort of, what would I say, conditioned that aspect for the vast majority of people to follow the more patriotic side of things, which is hierarchical and follow the rules, climb the ladder. This is how you get success. Whereas it's the creative quality of the feminine that sort of really manifests and creates, So for such a long period of time, humanity, especially probably through the age of Pisces, because we're being consciously sort of kept subdued in a state of the dream state, we're coming out of that. So naturally there is this rising of feminine quality within reality. And then we see that expressed through, feminism and, just women empowered in general. I think that's probably got something to do with it. Definitely it's part of this transition into the age of Aquarius, coming out of the sort of age of Pisces, where we've been living in a time that has we've not really known who we are and what we are and where we are and what we're doing. We've had to base that on beliefs. So they've created reality and said through the church and state, this is how it is, and connection to God is through us, and you don't have connection yourself. You've got to come through us in a way to get that. In the age of Pisces, our reality is created by our belief system. Now we're coming into the age of knowing, which is Aquarius. We're starting to not have to believe so much. We actually know. Like, we know who we are. We know where we are. We know why we are. We know we're more than just the physical body.
How long was it in Aquarius for?
Well, we've been in the age of Pisces technically since for about 2,000 odd years.
Whoa.
That's what I mean. There's a huge change that's happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a long
I think the
time.
feminine quality that you're seeing rise and the powering of women and the rise of, that feminine energy is a byproduct of the shift of the ages. Yeah, because I think during, not for the whole entire Piscean age, but for a vast majority of it, especially in the last 2, 3, 4, 500 years, there's been a suppression of that because it's, it's when people are kept out of that aspect, they're more easily controlled.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of all the cycles and full moons and all that kind of stuff, do you have a favorite time? Like, is it a full moon, or is it Mercury in retrograde?
On the cycle of the moon, I like the new moon. It's
Okay.
like 3 days where there's no moon in the sky.
Yeah.
It's a time to just like really pull back.
Is that's
Switch
not new
off.
beginnings, is it? No.
It is.
Oh, it is. Okay. Yeah.
The new beginning, the part of the new beginning with the new moon represents is the seed being planted. And when the seed goes into the soil, it's dark.
It's like manifesting time.
Yeah, so it's like withdraw, pull back, like disconnect.
I can see why that's your favorite. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like just not having to be busy and
Yeah.
be productive and doing things and always like a to-do list and a time to work by. I like it where it's just like chill.
Yeah.
And then as a favorite time of the year, that would be Virgo season.
Virgo season.
I was just about to say, as a Virgo, do you walk into a room and you're like, you can sum people up and you're like, I don't know what sign Virgos don't get along with. I'm not too sure. Do you like, fuck, I knew I didn't get along with you because you're
What talking about a Gemini?
Look, I'd definitely say Aries.
okay.
Yeah. It's funny, like, they can be fun, but I sometimes I'm just like, are you aware that you're just very self-absorbed?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Virgo is very considerate, thoughtful, and helpful.
Yeah.
And Aries are more like, oh no, I'm just doing my own thing, my own way, impulsively, and I didn't even think of you.
What sign is a Virgo? Is that like an air sign? Is it a
Earth.
Earth. Okay.
Yeah, Earth sign.
So we're Cancerian. So earth and water go together.
Very compatible.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Because if you think about that in the natural world, the Earth supports water, literally.
So I'm single, right?
Yes.
I was going to say before, we
Yes.
need to talk about dating and dating
course.
signs.
Yeah.
What sign should Sarah be going for?
Look,
a good
could
question.
I tell you who I generally
Absolutely.
date for?
Please.
A
Okay.
Gemini.
My ex
it?
is a Gemini.
I knew you were
Yep.
going to say that.
I tend to date a lot of Leos
Yep. That makes sense.
and throw in a couple of Aries.
Okay.
Really?
Yep, but I know that Capricorns are probably better for me.
What's your rising sign? Do you know?
I'm Cancer, Pisces.
So Pisces rising or Cancer rising?
We're both Cancer.
Can-
something.
Cancer.
My
Sun,
sun and moon
moon,
is Cancer and my
Pisces.
rising Pisces.
Pisces rising. Okay. So think about a circle of 12 people standing around.
Okay.
Okay.
And my Venus is in Gemini.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Well, I know I should wear colour. That's what fucking TikTok told me as well.
Your
'Cause you
Venus for a woman has a lot to do with the way in which they express their femininity.
Okay.
Their Mars in their chart is a lot about what they're attracted to in the opposite sex.
Oh.
Yep. So you could look to your Mars placement and find out where that is and why you keep attracting or being attracted to certain
To
types.
Leos?
Because they might not
specifically?
be necessarily good for you, but yet you're attracted to them.
I know.
Yeah. So that's important. Because here's the thing, like we each have all of the 12 signs of the zodiac in us.
In us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So everyone is compatible at
Yeah.
a level. Is there some signs you're going to like get along with better than others? Absolutely.
Wait, Luke. I have to look because if you tell me I'm superficial and shallow because of my Mars is in something.
No, because we talk about dating all the time. Obviously, I'm hook, line, sinker. I'm fine. I'm not dating.
Of course.
He's a Libra. He's fine. But Sarah's very superficial, and I keep telling her, I'm like, you keep going for the same guys. You need to step out of your comfort zone and go for someone different. Because
There you
what is that?
that's my
That's
co-star.
okay, that's your co-star. Oh, I need to bring my glasses.
Okay. Do
No,
we
no,
tell you
no,
something?
that's fine, that's fine.
I've got my pattern as well.
I wouldn't even know it.
My ex made me download all these.
Your ex. Your Mars is in Aries. Interesting.
What does that mean?
Well,
She's a shallow bitch.
Well, I could have told you that without looking at anything.
well, also too, Mars in Aries. What is it about these men that you were drawn to? Do you feel? you know,
Probably they're
sexually
arrogant
attracted to
and
them.
confidence.
And she
yeah,
won't.
confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're drawn to that confident type.
So true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, Aries, Cancer. What happens when you put fire under water?
Boils.
Fire, underwater,
Yeah.
Steamy.
Yeah. So, you know, Aries is the fire and Cancer is the water. So it can create passion and chemistry,
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
but it can also be fucking boiling.
Yeah.
You're scorching, you know, on again, off again, hot, cold.
Oh my, that is me to a T, hot and cold.
Luke's not. He's telling you everything I've told you before.
Of course,
Just in a
But
he's
he's,
different
looking at-
way.
he's justifying why I'm shallow.
Which
Looking
is
at-
good. She needs to hear
Through the
this.
lens of your chart. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I was saying before about like, you know, a circle of 12 people all standing around together, the signs next to you, there's familiarity. They're close to you, right? But they're
She's not attracted.
you're not connected to them, if that makes sense. You know, they're not necessarily, they're sort of standing next to you looking out, but they're looking out from a completely different point of view. So when you are with the sign that's next to you, that's the sort of way it is. It's like, oh, there's closeness, there's familiarity, it's comfortable in a way, but we've got a different point of view on life, right? And they not necessarily come together as well.
Yeah.
The sign opposite, which is Cancer, this Capricorn, that can be like, oh, wow, that's, you know, that's going to bring a little bit of harmony here and there's some balance,
Yeah.
but also that can create a bit of tension, sometimes conflict. If you can balance the conflict, they work really great. And they're also, the sign opposite is the element that's most compatible. So if you're water, the sign opposite's always earth. So it's the most compatible in that sense.
So should I be dating someone who's compatible with my Mars or me in general?
Well,
That's
There
goes my
goes the
phone.
phone.
that's okay. So the Mars helps you understand the qualities that are important. So what you want to find, and again, I don't really condone using astrology as a tool for finding someone.
I was going to ask you this actually. Yeah.
I think you should always just go with what feels right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if
Well,
there
it's
is
not fucking working for me so
no,
far.
no. But if there's a pattern that's
Yeah.
dysfunctional,
Yeah.
then the chart can be help reveal that and go, well, this is why. Now
Yeah.
you can choose whether you engage in that. Right? So that's often what's happening is like being drawn to these people because that's what's important to me, but they're not good for me, so I've got to maybe choose differently. Now, here's the thing, you can then find a sign that perhaps is more compatible that expresses some of these qualities, but not in the way in which you're trying to get them. But I would say, as a water sign with Pisces rising on your 7th house of relationship is Virgo. So that would be a pretty suitable archetype. Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, the earth signs. So what did I say? Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo, the earth signs. But it's complex when you look at relationships, compatibility, and intimacy in the chart. There's not just one part we're looking at. We're looking at a lot. We're looking at your Venus, the Mars, the 7th house, the 8th house, the 5th house, the rulers of those houses.
So complex.
Yeah. So that's why a professional astrologer can look at a chart and help you understand the complexity
Yeah.
to make sense of it. So you go, and then once you sort of get like yourself really clear with, what you're worth as well, like how you feel about yourself, you'll meet someone and naturally there'll be compatibility there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not being just this part that's being the pit that you're, experiencing. It's like this wholeness. And now there's a resonance. And when I see the charts of people like that are in relationship, I'm like, they might historically go, oh, we're not necessarily compatible from this, generic perspective. But when you look at them, it's like, oh, there's so much that resonates, so.
What would, if someone, like one of your clients, what's the main reason that they come to you? If someone's listening, they want to learn about astrology or why they come to you, why do people come to you?
With their problems.
Yeah.
With their problems.
When do you go to a bloody psychic? You go to a psychic, you go to Dave the medium when you're searching for
I
something.
didn't know that's why people went to astrologists.
When do you go to Reiki or something?
When I need clarity or to clear something.
Exactly.
Yeah, true.
When you're in search of something, you seek guidance from someone
What's
else.
the most common? Is it like relationships? Is it?
For me personally, with my sort of background as well as the way I present myself socially, and my reputation as well. My clients are coming to me because they're on their journey, they're on their path, they're on their awakening journey, and they're coming into conflict with a part of their life that they're working towards transforming. Sometimes that transformation means that part of their life goes to a new level and it's beautiful. Other times it means that part of their life has come to its end. So helping them navigate those. Relationships are a big theme. 90% of my clients are women. Because they just resonate, more open to it. Yep, absolutely. Not to say my men clients are amazing and they're really self-aware, which is good. But out of the women that come to me, a lot of them are relationship stuff. Whether it's a intimate one or a family or a work or a friend, it's like dynamics within relationships.
That's interesting. And with because you do Reiki too.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit to our audience? I know what Reiki is, so you know what Reiki is, but what the hell is Reiki?
Yeah, so it's tuning into the universal life force energy, prana or chi, and you become a conduit to be able to channel it, basically at its simplest form. I sort of have taken my Reiki practice and, experience and now do what I call sort of quantum energy healing and clearing. If you think about the quantum field, it's the field of source energy where everything exists in a state of potential. So if a client comes to me and, for whatever reason they're anxious, then I can go into the quantum field and find the frequency of peace.
Okay.
And then I can channel that into my client.
And it's just Reiki, for anyone else listening, it's just hand, but you're not touching, right?
No, I touch.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
So I ask permission to touch, but I was taught by my master to put your hands on. And for me, I need physical connection to connect. Sometimes that's how I can pick up psychic impressions as well.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Yeah, so through touching, it's like...
Are you psychic too?
Well, our Reiki
through touch,
girl.
I am.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I, my fiance at the moment, I like to say that, people say, how did you meet? And I'm like, I saved her from a burning building. So just really quickly, she's a skydiver. And in a Reiki session, I'd known her chart, and I have this ability once I've done a client's chart, if they're a regular client, whenever I'm talking to them, just here I can see it, their chart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I can just see it here, and I can just, when I'm talking like this, I can see their chart, so I can know where things are. And then when they're talking, I'm looking at them through their chart. So I looked at my partner's chart, and I saw a particular alignment, and I'm like, what's going on around the end of January? And she's a skydiver. And she had an event on. I'm like, okay. She's like, you telling me not to skydive? And I'm like, no, I won't. I'll tell you the weather. You decide whether you take a raincoat. That's up to you.
Yep.
And I said, but that's an interesting sort of alignment there that's going on, and that translates often to sudden and unexpected accidents and things. So just if you're getting an intuition that something's not right, or just act on that. Like it's a period to be really aware of how you're feeling. Excuse me. Anyway, I did a Reiki clearing for her after that. And when I tuned in, there was presence there, and they sort of, I asked, who is this? Because it wasn't me or her. Who is this? Can you show me who you are? And it was actually David the medium that gave me this little technique.
Wow.
He said he asked that question too, and they'll show him all of the people that have the same name that he knows. So all of a sudden I asked, who is this? And in my mind, all I got was all the Marks that I knew in my life.
Oh.
And I had a friend at school called Mark Core. And all of a sudden I asked, who is this? And all I could see was Mark Core.
Wow.
So then I say, in my mind, is this Mark? And there's a little bang at the door in the corner of the room.
For confirmation.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, we've got Mark. So then Mark says, proceeded to show me my partner's chart, right? And pointing to a part of it that I hadn't actually seen properly.
So you physically see him, or there's...
When my eyes are closed, and I can see it
You
here.
see him,
Yeah, and he's basically, it's like he's talking without talking, but I can understand. It's like telepathy.
Yeah.
He's telling me and I'm listening and I'm going, yep. And he says, look here at her chart. And he points to a part of their chart. And when he gave me that missing piece, I went, it's not her having an accident. It's someone else that she's trusting. She's putting her life in someone else's hands. They're having an accident and her life's in danger. And this is all coming through the Reiki session.
Far out.
So I came out of the session, and it was a really powerful session, and she goes, so did you get anything? Anything come through? I said, yeah. I said, you know how I said I wouldn't tell you to dive or not dive, jump or not jump? She goes, yeah. She goes, well, Mark's here. And at this time, we'd only not long started dating, and I said, so Mark's here, and she goes, oh, that would be my brother. So her brother had passed away about 6 months earlier.
Wow.
His name was Mark. And she goes, oh, yeah. And I said, well, he just showed me your chart, and he said not to jump, and he specifically told me from the 15th of January. And she said, oh, the event's on the 16th and 17th. And I'm like,
Maybe don't do it.
I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I said, look, you go away with that, decide what you want to do, and we'll go from there. The next day I saw her, and she said, look, you'd be pleased to know I've decided to cancel that event. Well, the day after the event, I got a message from her, and she goes, your prophecy came true. And I said, what do you mean? And the event that she was skydiving at, there was a mid-air collision between two skydivers. And one guy misrepresented his jump out of the plane. He was trying to catch up to the group.
Oh, my
gosh. So
gosh.
he came flying through, and his leg hit the head of another skydiver. And in that instant, he shattered his leg and his femur. And the other skydiver knocked him out like that, lights out. So way up in the sky, lights out, just falling to the ground. Now, they have an emergency activation device, so if they get below a certain altitude, it shoots. So that happened, and it opened up just as he landed on the ground. And, he was okay. He was concussed. His helmet was split. He had blood in his face, and he survived. But he was a really heavy-set ex-martial arts boxer. And they said and the other guy, he shattered his leg, his femur and stuff. And they said if had it been anyone else that guy hit, it would have been over.
Wow.
Just the speed that they collided at. And that was the event that she was skydiving at.
Oh my gosh, you did save her life.
I think that's so interesting, the tip you gave of how
You take this.
the information, because I've never actually had a conversation with Dave the medium. I mean, some people listening might think they've got the ability, and now they have a tool that they can use. Do you have any other tips that someone who, because even Saturday at Dave's live event the other week, a lot of people asked in the 15 minutes after the event, like, what can you do to
channel,
train your skill? What can you do?
Well, that one was really interesting because up until that point, for about like 3 or 4 months, I'd been getting a lot of, spiritual influence in my sessions. And I was like, I knew that something was there.
How do you know what comes through?
Just, it's like, imagine if there's someone standing behind you in the room right now, you'd sort of know they were there. You'd get this feeling that someone was there, wouldn't you? It's like that. It's literally like that. It's like, okay, this isn't theirs and this isn't me. There's someone else here. Yeah. And then weird things happen. So when I'm in a session and my hands are on the client and my eyes are closed, I'm very aware spatially of what's happening, and strange things start happening. The door starts creaking, or the fan flickers. All that sort of stuff happens.
Way.
Absolutely, it does. So it's like, okay, there's someone so then it's like, okay, you're sort of making it known that you're aware of them.
Do you have to say that out
Like,
loud, or
who
you
are
say
you?
it in your
It's
head?
a conversation in your head. Yeah.
That's so fun. I had a
Yeah.
conversation with my auntie in my head last night.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm fucking psychic.
Well,
Yeah.
Cancerians
Actually-
are very tuned in. Cancerians.
Really?
Yes.
I could not sleep last night, and it was like she was lying on the pillow next to me, laughing at me, telling me to not think, slow my brain down. And I literally had a conversation with her.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, whether you're speaking out loud or speaking in your head to them, even if you can't hear them respond, they are listening
wow.
and they hear.
Because David said everyone has the ability to.
I just thought I was imagining it in my head.
Well, where else would you be
that's true.
having these experiences?
You
Do you
put a
see when
ver-
David does his work?
Yeah.
In his head.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So can you do it without, you say you have your hands on a patient, can you do it without having your hands on them?
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can
Yeah.
get my own intuition
Yeah.
and senses and things like that. But with a client,
That's wild.
it's almost because we're in a client session. I really, before I even touch them, we've had a consultation. We've spoken about things and I've asked permission, and then before I even touch them in my own process, ritualistically, I'm sort of connecting and I'm sort of calling on their higher self and any guides or those beings with unconditional love if they want to be here to assist, and also my own. So it's almost like this is a safe place now.
Yeah.
So that connection can be made. And that started getting all these influences, and I spoke to David and he said, I see people that I know, because I'm like, how do you know their name? How do you know their
Great
name?
question.
Because he knows their
Oh,
name.
yeah.
And he said, I see people that
I know.
with that name. So, I'm not sure if you remember the other day with David, he said about the Mario song.
Yeah, that was our friend.
And that's how he knew it was a Mario, because he's hearing Mario Kart.
He's putting the link together.
That's what it is, because they can't, it's like they can only show us symbolically, right? Symbolically. That's the language of the subconscious, the unconscious, and the spiritual. It is symbolism. So, they're symbolically showing him or letting him hear Mario Kart, because that's the connection that he can then go, oh, Mario.
Oh, Mario, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is, for any type of these types of practices, whether it's intuition, psychic, mediumship, anything really, the threshold that really solidified it for me and made it really strong was my own belief in it. And once I because you're uncertain, you're insecure, you're sort of a little bit, is it
Yeah.
isn't it? And just believe it. It was like it just switches on.
That's
Wow.
great.
Like it's like literally self-belief is like
Yeah.
the biggest thing. And you could look at people in their life for success, accomplishment and achievement. It's like once people believe it, it becomes real.
If
Yeah.
it, even say success, once you believe you can have that,
Yeah,
it happens.
absolutely.
Can you, if someone wants to book to see you, like they're listening now, they want to book and see you, you're obviously in Melbourne now, but you're based in the Gold Coast.
I am.
And you only do one-on-one. Do you do Zooms?
Zoom is where
Okay.
most of my work is.
Okay.
Yeah, I have clients now, fortunately, all over the world,
Yeah.
which is good, different time zones and up sometimes late at night. I do see people face-to-face. When I come to Melbourne, I book out pretty
Yeah.
far in advance, and I have a wait list for face-to-face sessions. Otherwise, I'm available online and people can book in. I can do the energetic Reiki work through online
Oh, you
stuff.
can?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because when you access the quantum field with all limitless possibility and potential, there's no time or space.
Okay.
So there is no distance between you and the person that matters.
Yeah.
So people can do this on the other
So
side
you
of the
can
earth.
send energy
Crazy.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned one thing that my ears pricked up earlier on when you were describing what you do. Past life.
Yeah.
Your eyebrows go up.
Yeah.
Past life within yourself or with other people?
Past life regression therapy.
Okay, can you explain what that is?
Yep. So
Like Tully and I could have been sisters in a previous life.
most likely. Yeah.
Everyone always says that because we've got weird,
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah.
Like, do you think people come into your life and are connected?
Yep.
Oh,
100%.
okay.
Really?
We've probably known each other before. Now
That's
that we're having this
crazy.
experience.
How
So-
do you know what you were?
There's lots of different regression type therapies. What I do is I do what's known as quantum healing hypnosis technique, which is Dolores Cannon's technique. And it's to gently take people into their subconscious and communicate directly with their subconscious intelligence or aspect of self. So there's the conscious mind, the subconscious and the unconscious. And I, through a process of visualizing and getting the person to sort of access their imagination, I can then start to guide them into their subconscious. And in the subconscious is the memory. It's like the database of everything that's ever happened to you is stored somewhere in the subconscious mind.
In every life.
Is that just is that just imagination?
It's through the imagination that we can communicate with that aspect of ourselves.
I just had a memory. I had a reading, or not a reading, I saw someone who was like a healer. And this is so weird, we're talking about this. She told me that I had this Egyptian princess that kept coming up, and that was something from my past life.
Maybe you're fucking Cleopatra.
Maybe, who knows? Doubt it.
Where's your tomb? We're looking for it right
But
now.
I was just, you know, when things pop up in your head, and I was like, I remember when she said that. So that would be like a past life
Potentially, yeah. A lot of people's past lives aren't very glamorous. They're just potato farmers mostly, or they were soldiers in the war.
Was a guy from Ballarat.
Oh yeah, true. He said that.
Yep, and he drowned. He
They're
told
pretty
me.
not glamorous. You think about it. I mean, the glamour lifestyles really emerged. It was either real royalty in the day, but most people were simple life, simple living.
Yeah.
What was your past? Like, how many past lives can you go back to?
Yeah, well, it with that side of it, I'm not guiding what comes through or how many or which one. I'm facilitating what they bring forth themselves. So their subconscious intelligence will show the person the past life that's most significant to this life. In whatever, there's something connected to a past life experience that's repeating now.
Yeah, so if there's a blockage, they're like, this happened in this life back then, but it might not be their previous life.
Yeah. So for me personally, I've had this process done where I remembered 100 lifetimes ago.
Whoa.
100 different lives. Yeah.
In one session, you went back.
I didn't go through each one, but I went to a life, and when we went, what life is this? How many lifetimes ago? 100 lifetimes ago. Yeah.
Wow.
So
my baby, for example, she's been here before.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Pretty unusual you come across a new soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might look at new souls in this life as very simplistic type people. Okay. Even sometimes people that are impaired in some way or really like low intelligence or consciousness, new to this experience. Sometimes those people are also devolved people, so they've come back to like repay a heavy karmic debt. They've chosen a lifetime of being disabled or impaired, So Dolores Cannon will tell you that there is like a line of souls that goes on forever waiting to come into, disabled bodies to sort of work through a lot of karma,
Wow.
Yeah.
But, you could say that the journey of the soul, that there is a particular imprint for that soul based on impressions that have happened over lifetimes, and that they are then set at a certain energetic frequency that's unique to that soul. And that when that soul's going to come into this life, we can look up to the stars and know that the patterns that they signify correlate to that soul's, like it's like a key that unlocks. And when it aligns, the soul can come in. So before you were saying about due dates and things like that, and this day and age we can intervene in the process through like inductions and cesareans and elected things like that. But a lot of the time, with like babies not coming on their due date or coming early or late or really premature and that's because that's the moment that the key unlocked for that soul. And now they have a coherent pathway to manifest physically.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's phenomenal stuff. The regression therapy, I just long ago let the skeptic part of me go, and like, is it imagination? Are they just thinking about it? I will literally drop people into their past life at the moment of a death of a life. And I've had one woman, for example, that was being drowned in a barrel of water. And we literally took her into that like past life. And as she came to in the past life, she was laying on the bed going,
oh, whoa.
In this life?
On the bed next to me. Yeah. Another woman I regressed.
love stories.
Another woman I regressed, and she was in a past life, and she was like, there's a road, like with a long road and a fence, and it looks like there's a house. And I said, okay, well, I want you to walk up that road and just imagine you're standing now in front of that house. I want you to look at the house and tell me what you see. And as soon as she got to the house and it came clear to her, she was laying on the bed like this, shaking like that, like just in fear. Because we found out that house, she had a lot of trauma associated, and that was a house that she'd lived in.
Wow.
And she had extreme abuse by her partner in that house. So the very sight of is it imagined? Like, is she just imagining that? Well, that's something energetically is causing her body to resonate. Right?
That's crazy.
So all memory is associated to emotion.
Yeah.
Right? So therefore, if she's in a memory, either it's through her imagination and a feeling's coming up, that's because there is an experience of that. And sometimes it's because of an experience in this life, trauma that we've been through, experiences. Other times, our soul has endured repetitive, challenging, difficult, traumatic experiences. They've imprinted on the soul. We come into the physical body, well, our body has a soul, or our soul has a body, if you want to look at it like that. So those imprints energetically are there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So a lot of the time too, they can
You got to feel it to heal it.
100%, and they can control the patterns of behavior that we play out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when people can't get through things and can't stop doing something, it's like, let's regress you and see where the core of this comes from. Yeah.
How do you, after a session like that, how do you feel emotionally and energetically? Like, are you like empowered or are you drained?
Now, I'm good. I'm very empathetic, but not to the
Okay.
point where it
Affects
impacts
you?
me.
Yeah.
Only one Reiki client that I've done once, and this soul had endured lifetimes and lifetimes of abuse by a particular other soul. And in this life, that soul was her abusive partner.
Oh, wow.
Oh, still.
And she was coming to the end of that relationship, and I did a healing with her, and I got a tiny glimpse through the session of what she'd been through, felt it, and as soon as it hit me, I just started bawling.
Yeah.
I wasn't crying, my eyes were crying, like it was just that intense. And we come out of the session and she was like, what? Because in that session, her spiritual guides came through and wanted me to take her through to this mountaintop where all of a sudden the light was out of all this dark journey she'd been through.
Wow.
And it was almost like this ending for this, like this hard relationship you've got to walk away from. This isn't just this life. This is endured for lifetimes, and you are finally getting to that point where you don't have to experience it, not only in this life, but any life ever again. Like, you're done. And she came out of it and she was like blubbering mess and crying. She looked at me and she's like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, oh. I was just like, whew, that was a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Do you hold back in the information you give her?
No.
So you tell her exactly how you felt, what you...
Whatever comes through for me, I let them, I give that to them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like help them clear.
Even not so great stuff?
Yeah. In the past life regression therapy stuff, it's all them. Yeah. In the Reiki stuff, it's just the way in which you deliver it.
Yeah.
And if done in a way that can be done so that they can handle that, then
That's incredible.
That's so crazy. Like, what do you have next? Like, is there anything else that you want to, because I know we're like, you are so spiritual. Is there anything else you want to tap into?
I think we're all spiritual. I think I just integrate more of it into who I am and my way of life and way of being. But I think we can go to Coles and be spiritual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can be spiritual while you're doing your grocery shopping and doing the mundane things. And I think that's the next phase for human evolution, is to really look at life, living it more that way, just in the day to day, and not saving that spiritual stuff for something we just keep on the side or when we go to a retreat. I think it's more about acting and walking this world from that perspective, and it helps you then engage in life and with others and relate to people a lot easier and not be as bothered by certain things. And when people are having a lot of conflict or aggression, it's like you can sort of see it for what that is, so it's helpful. For me personally, I'm building behind the scenes an education platform for people. So with astrology in particular, it's a very complex sort of science and an art. It's hard to get your head around. It's very overwhelming. And if you want to learn about it, the education is designed for those that want to become astrologers. What if you want to learn about astrology but you don't want to be an astrologer?
Yeah.
Because astrology is useful. The foundational understanding symbolically of all of the archetypes, the elements, the signs and all of that, at the very basic level, is very useful information.
Yeah.
You can start to live a more sort of spiritualized or astrological lifestyle. And what I'm doing is I'm building a platform for that. So I want to teach people how to use astrology but not be astrologers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it'll be an online platform with meetup groups, mentoring, sort of weekly live classes. Yeah, so that's my next sort of thing that I'm doing on the side. And otherwise, more of this stuff, more of supporting David and doing my own stuff as well.
Yeah.
Speaking events, getting this stuff out there. And demystifying it, not making it so woo. Bald guy with tattoos, was a pest controller. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not resigned for just the crystal clutches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that
Clutches.
stuff.
Yeah. True though.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so
That's that's what we think of.
The social media, but look at any industry. There's an elevation to a degree of every sort of thing that's gone like, whoa, hang on, just come back a bit.
Yeah. Wait, just back to crystals. Do you believe in crystals?
I don't believe, it's not a belief. I know that everything vibrates at a certain frequency. And the reason we can see a certain color through a crystal is because the particles of that are vibrating at a certain frequency that, reflect every other light and allow us to see that one through it. So then we know now that that's a symbol for that energy. And if you know what that frequency is, and let's say it's rose quartz, which rose is the frequency of the heart, well, wouldn't I want that around in my environment as a reminder?
That's a good way of putting it,
as a way to sort of connect in my environment to get into that frequency more often. Maybe like for me, my favorite is labradorite.
Yeah.
And that's a really dark crystal, but in the right light, it just comes to life.
What's that one for?
Well, this reminds me that even when it's dark, you can still see the beauty.
Oh, yeah, cute.
And to bring the light, that's all it needs is a little light.
Yeah.
So that's really what I help people with is like their shit, their darkness, the things that they've either had judged or judged themselves as being, I come in there and like, hey, I've done that too. Isn't that fucked?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
That's actually a really good way of putting crystals.
Well, next minute, this one's going to be buying crystals.
No, I've got crystals at home, but I'm just like, do you need to activate them? Do you need to, I never...
You can activate them. You can personally connect to them if you're working with them. Like stuff you wear, you should definitely make a personal connection to it. It can be something just simple as you've cleansed it a little bit with Palo Santo or under running water, and then you just hold it before you put it as a piece of jewelry.
Yeah, because I saw a couple of people at Dave's thing the other day, and they were holding rose quartz, and I was like watching them, and I was like, oh. Yeah.
And then
which makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other way is just in your environment where you're going to catch them in your field of vision, or they're going to reflect light. They're vibrating at everything's in a state of vibration.
Yeah.
So those pure sort of stones and crystals and things like that are naturally vibrating at that frequency. That frequency, like the purple stones, that relates to the pineal gland, the awakening of your intuition and your consciousness. So you have that around because it sort of helps you get in more of that frequency.
One final question.
Sure.
Have I taken it too far?
We back on relationships?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, God, if we're here all day.
One final thing, just because it's eclipse season too. Moon water. I drank moon water.
Oh, yeah.
What?
I drank moon water.
Oh, yeah, I think I knew that. I thought you said I drink moon water. I'm like, I've never seen you drink moon water.
Well,
I thought you drank it.
I drank it. I put my water out under the full moon for it to be good juju with a high vibe frequency, set my intentions, and then you're supposed to drink it. Is it a thing?
I mean, possibly.
Okay, whatever.
Would I
Is
do
it
it?
alkaline?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so the moon's reflective. It doesn't have light of its own. Where's it receiving that light from?
The sun.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice just to get to the source of that light rather than the reflection of it.
So like in the sun, not the moon.
So put my water out into the sun.
Did you find this on social media?
Yeah.
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 TikTok probably.
Yeah.
I was like, give me that good juju. Okay.
Yeah. But even better than that, like sun gazing is definitely something that's good for you.
For your eyes.
There you go.
Well, in sunrise and sunset.
Oh, I was going to say,
Yeah,
you go blind.
Well, the atmosphere at ground level is thicker.
Yep.
So when it's on the horizon over there, the light's got to travel through all that thick level of atmosphere to get to you.
Yeah, right.
So it's less harmful.
Yep.
And really good for you. They call it light codes. I don't know if it's light codes, new woo-woo word.
Yeah.
But definitely good for you. If the sun's in the middle of the day, it's only travelling through a little bit of that atmosphere, so you're looking at it and going, I can't see. But sun gazing is a good thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know charge their water in the sunlight. Moonlight, yeah, maybe.
Sunlight, never heard of it, but guess what I'm doing today?
Yeah, well, you got it you got it wrong.
You got to get sunlight.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you do with a plant? You got to get some light on it, right?
Yeah, right.
We're this like basically indoor plants. Supposed to be outdoor.
I'm going to put that in my TikTok search, sunlight water.
Sunlight water.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Luke.
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming on.
What an interesting topic.
Before we leave, if people are wanting to connect with you, where can they find you?
So everywhere online, I'm Luke Balcke.
Okay.
And it's my name, LukeBalcke, and it's Instagram, YouTube, website, everything. You just put Luke Balcke on the top there. And you can connect and... if you're uncertain, because a lot of people are like, I don't know what I need or what I should do, and just reach out and we'll have a conversation. And I'll be like, oh, you should probably do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's no pressure, but do this.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.